My Brother's Keeper Cares promotes mental health awareness and suicide prevention through faith-based initiatives, art therapy, mentorship, educational outreach, fitness programs, and counseling resources. Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Reicheter, and today I'm joined by the founder of My Brother's Keeper Cares, Ihsan Hines. In this episode, I talked with Ihsan about his journey of finding purpose after the loss of his brother to suicide. He talks about the importance of creating supportive spaces where people leave feeling better and equipped with resources, and underscores the need for self-care, mental health awareness, and tangible strategies to help individuals navigate their struggles. Ihsan, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited for our conversation. But before we begin, I just want to check in. How are you really?
I'm better right now than I was when I woke up, which is part of my process. Sometimes I'm not where my schedule needs me to be mentally or emotionally, but at this moment I'm okay. I practiced some things this morning that helped me to be more prepared, and just even prepping right now with you is helpful. So I'm alive and I'm well.
That was such a beautifully honest answer. I have those days where it's just, I have every intention of doing what I need to get done, and it's super important to me, every aspect of the work, but I just don't have it in me. And just mental health wise, I'm not in it. Those are the days where I do the encouragement card program and I just make cards all day. And I'm like, I'm semi being productive because cards do have to be made, but it's not requiring me to do anything other than focus on myself and my mental health in that moment. Because when you're doing things that you're just not really, for me, I feel dissociated sometimes from it. And I'm like, I just don't feel like I'm here right now. And then having to show up and put on this like fake
Mhm.
smile and do all the work I'm supposed to do and be online, it becomes way too much.
It's a blessing in it because the type of work that you do and the type of work that I'm doing, it causes us sometimes to be in spaces where what I've been taught to be a wounded healer. So we're speaking from places of like not only past experience, but some current circumstances, some current experiences that could be as significant, or as it can only be an hour ago, and you have to show up this hour for something that's really significant or important. But it is decent because it is, at times, it's a healthy way to pivot our attention as opposed to things that may be addictive or more destructive. So I'm grateful for that. And I do wish that the common times of being joyful, or I wish that being joyful, peaceful, and not having to go back into those dark spaces be more common. But this is my journey, and it's your journey at times too. So I'm just glad that we can show up in this space. And thank you for this opportunity to speak to you and also to your audience.
Of course, I absolutely admire the work you're doing. I'm excited because I'm going to get to speak at your event in September. But for
Yeah.
those who don't know your story, I mean, when you have to show up and tell your story, and your story is painful, but it brings hope and it's meant to instill hope in others and help people not feel what you went through, doing that day after day can take a lot out of you. And to get to turn that into my pain into my purpose and actually action to help people is incredible.
Thank you for saying that. It's interesting that you use the word purpose because that's my artist name, and it's a name that was inspired by a relationship with God, but also it's rooted in a particular scripture. And the Bible talks about all things working together for those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. The last the years in the past have been really difficult, but I've seen that very thing become true, where some of those things that were the most painful had wound up becoming something that had a purpose. I lost a brother to suicide, and I never thought with that loss that I would be in a position to give the tools or teach other people how to hold on to hope. I wish my brother was still here, but I do see now that there was a purpose even in his death. And I hope that that doesn't sound like people should choose the wrong decision or the permanent decision to ever harm themselves. But I do know that for my story, my brother's death brought about some good to help other people not go through those same circumstances, but then also to help people who have experienced a loss know what healing can look like and sound like and what the day to day structures or strategies to get through stuff can look like and feel like. So purpose is important. And it's my rap name, my poet name, it's all of that.
I love that. It's really, really hard to lose a loved one to suicide. I lost my uncle, could not imagine losing my brother in that way. But to be able to take something that's so deeply painful and turn it into how can I help others avoid that pain? I mean, again, it's so amazing. And that is your purpose. And I wish that we could get to a world where we didn't lose anyone to suicide. But I also wish that we continue to have more people who have experienced that loss talk about what that's like and help bring some support to others who are struggling and helping to let people know that they're not alone in it and there's other options.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned that you're excited about coming forward or looking forward to coming to Philadelphia. We are too. When my brother first died, one of the things that was challenging for me, in addition to just the pain of losing him, but was the programs that I found around the tri-state area. They were like suicide prevention conferences or mental health conferences. And when I would go to them, sometimes I would actually feel worse leaving than I did going in. And it's become important to create space that people come in feeling better than they walked out, because mental health, suicide, anything that has to do with our minds, it's not something that people are eager to talk about. But I think that they'll be less eager if they leave spaces where they talk about it and feel worse or feel triggered. So it was important when I started attending these events to make sure people didn't feel the way I felt. I didn't like going into events and feeling like the funeral happened again for my brother. I wanted to leave feeling like there's hope beyond this, and there's not just a bunch of people sitting around talking and feeling sad. So it's become very important for my organization, for my Brothers Keeper Cares, and our board members and our team, our volunteers, to create spaces that people can come in, be transparent, be met with love, but also leave out feeling better and having resources they didn't walk in with, as opposed to leaving feeling more depleted or feeling like hopeless, you know. So I'm glad that the event that even you're coming to is that type of space where people get to share poetry, people get to hear poetry, people get to hear about resources that they may not have known about within their community, such as the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention or various other organizations that people have in the city, local things. So now we have national talent. We have you coming in from Florida. We have Philip Tyler coming in from Seattle. And we're excited about growing a national reach with our organization and our programs.
So amazing. I felt that way going into a lot of conferences too, where my big thing is first of all, I love going to these conferences and getting to speak. How do I say this nicely? I very rarely go to other people's presentations anymore because a lot of times people sit there and they quote the stats to me. I've seen the numbers.
Mhm.
I see the numbers online every day. And those numbers oftentimes don't fill me with hope. They make me feel like it's not getting better. So what am I doing? Why am I here? And for me, that became really difficult because I'm just hearing these stories of loss. So when I go to speak, my biggest thing is very rarely will I ever include a stat. And if I do, it's like one statistic specifically. And two, it always has to end with hope. And it has to end with a powerful statement because I didn't want people to feel like said when you walk out of there like you're at that funeral all over again, like you're reliving that worst day. I want people to walk out and think, I want to get involved and do something to help someone else.
It's a life changing experience when you have that moment, that epiphany.
Yeah.
And when you actually are equipped to do it, it's really decent. Like one of the things I love about what you're doing is the encouragement cards. Those are really, really decent. And I know that the people who are receiving them had to be touched by them, but the people who are creating them had to be touched by them too. Just to know that on the other end, you're sending, it's almost like when you see these TV shows back in the day, and somebody would put like a message in a bottle, just throw it out and hope that somebody on the other shore would get it. You're sending out messages not knowing who's going to receive it, but knowing that somebody who could use it, and then somebody's creating it is being touched by it, gives them a sense of purpose too, as well as the person receiving it. So I'm just grateful for that kind of work, even to see you doing that too, and to know that it helps you along your own journey too is decent. It's
Thank
really decent.
thank you. And that's the thing about how a powerful message can make a difference, right? How just one message of "You're not alone. It's gonna get better. I believe in you. You matter." Those might seem like really small messages to people who aren't struggling, who have never struggled. But for someone who feels so alone in it, who feels like it's never gonna get better, this is the best it's ever gonna be, having that moment that it's not you're not all alone in it, it's not all darkness, it's a tiny bit of light, can be the difference between I'm going to end my life and I'm going to try another day.
Words are so powerful. When when I'm thinking right now, as you said that about how my worst day, so I didn't say this earlier, but I had a plan to take my own life, October 16th, 2018. And I remember already not feeling well. And then someone said something to me that hurt me and it pushed me over the top. So to now hear you express how like the messages that you're sharing, how much they can have somebody hold on to hope. It's the flip side when people don't realize how powerful their words can be in a negative way. Words have so much power, and you're taking responsibility over what those words are and making sure that people hear something positive that's contrary to all the negative things. We already have our own thoughts that already there telling us you're not good enough, you're not whatever. But then when you have somebody else reinforce that, sometimes that could wind up being something that can be very dangerous. So to know that you're putting out messages that can change that some. I noticed I saw a graphic, and I'm hoping I'm not stepping over lines by mentioning this, but I remember seeing something that you created where it was like the lines were crossed out of negative words and it was switched to a different word. And I think that that's what we need when we put out these positive messages or when you do good work, you're making sure that the sum at the bottom winds up coming out positive because we already have a lot of negatives going on from ourselves and from others. So there's so much power in words, so much power in love.
There is, and that's the thing, words matter so much. The words we tell ourselves, the words we tell others, and the words that we're picking up online. When you go online and you see people bullying people online for wearing glasses or looking a certain way or doing something, putting themselves out there. For me, at least for me, if I see someone making fun of someone for something that I do or that I want to do, I immediately like internalize it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. Or oh my goodness, something's
Yeah.
wrong with me. I need to not eat. Just all these, it's so easy to take in these messages in the wrong way. And any message we put out there, whether it's behind a screen or face to face or just allowing to exist in our own minds, makes makes or breaks us. And I don't think there's enough conversation on how important the words you use are and how permanent those words can be.
You're consuming them all day long with especially with social media because it's so easy to hear a direct message, but it's also easy to interpret something as a message. So if you see someone, I don't know if this is something you've ever experienced, but when I'm not feeling motivated or feeling like I've been making an impact or keeping up with my responsibilities to a certain level, if I see someone else post content and they're doing their stuff, it can create a feeling of me of feeling insignificant, even though I know that there wasn't a negative thing another person was putting out, but the social media creates a platform where it leaves things up to interpretation. And I think it's really important that we have a sense of self, that we have a sense of community, so that our friends and our family, people who matter, can can be there to support us, and that our approval comes from within, but also from them, as opposed to looking for it from the outside, because the outside can change. People can love me, or they can love my brother's keeper one day. They can hear about one bad experience and then no longer like that. That's just the ways of the world. Not saying that there's any problems with us at all, but people don't always encounter you at your best. And there's so much at stake when they encounter you at your low moment, that everything else, their opinion of everything can change. I think it is really important that our sense of self comes from something that's higher than us. For me, that's God, but then also turn into people who really love me, or seeking therapy, so that I'm looking inward more than I'm looking outward. Therapy has changed my life. Therapy, God saved my life, and therapy really changed my life. It helped me to stop looking outwardly for what I needed inside. It's really like that Inside Out movie, which I love. And Pixar, if you're hearing this, I want some money for that promo. So yeah.
It's social media in general, being online is so tricky because there's that balance of showing up as yourself and showing up as who you're supposed to be in that branded version of you. And that's a line I try to walk very carefully of being super vulnerable and honest, but then also looking like a responsible adult, because when I want people to work with me, I don't want them to think, oh, she's like a 10-year-old crying all the time. That's something someone said to me. So that's why I use that specific example. But I want them to think, oh, she's a mature adult who knows what she wants, knows what she's doing, and we want to work with her. But also seeing that I'm mature enough to be vulnerable and to share what I'm going through and what tools I'm using, and never hiding behind this image of, I have completely healed and life's great and I never struggle with my mental health anymore. And when people go and they comment mean things, I'll sometimes get some mean like DMs about how I shouldn't be posting this. And people don't want to see mental health content. I'm like, why you're following me, but okay. And right, I feel like it's so that's what you're gonna get. What you see is what you're gonna get. But then I have people who comment so nicely, like you, who are always checking in and praising my vulnerability and making me feel like I'm not alone. And that's the thing. What we put out there matters, and how you respond to it matters. And finding that support system, like you said, with therapy, I've learned that instead of focusing so much on that one bad response, that one negative comment, focusing on all the people who show up for me and who listen to me, and allowing myself to also be one of those people.
Giving yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Really giving yourself some grace. Like, being grateful for the little thing. Getting out of bed sometimes is a challenge, you know. And if someone today got done 12, 12 essays, and someone else did 4 speeches, and the only thing you did today was got out of bed, that is significant if getting out of bed was a challenge. And I think that all of us have a level of influence. We all do. And to see that someone like yourself or myself, whoever we are, people look up to us for certain things. Sometimes people are attracted to the work we do. Sometimes people may be attracted to a perception, an image. People may be attracted to whatever people are attracted to. And then when we use those platforms to then say, I'm just like you, or I'm only human. I have greatness within me. We all do. You have greatness within you. But to say greatness is within you too in the audience. Like, greatness is the same thing that I'm doing, you can do. And when you tell people, or when you show people that you're normal, it creates an environment where people are comfortable being transparent. And that's what therapy does. Therapy is that one-on-one where you're getting an opportunity to be vulnerable and say exactly how you think, how you feel. And therapy for me has also taught me how to be honest with myself, so that I can be more honest with other people. If I can be completely honest with myself and accept myself, it makes it easier for me to say my truth to everyone else and not worry about if they accept me, because I've already accepted myself. I've also already realized God accepts me the way that I am. God made us the way we are, flaws and all. And in fact, he doesn't even call these things flaws. He just calls it us. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. People see the influence we have, and it's a good thing when you show up and you can show people you. One of the things I love, and I know it's not probably not pleasant for you, but when you show yourself and you're crying or you're showing yourself and you're wrestling with a thought, but then you're also telling people the process of refuting that negative thought, that's decent because you're teaching people the process, not just here I am at the end, well, but here were the steps or here was the journey. And people are going through the journey every day. They're not always seeing the finished product. So it's good to show them the process. And thank you for showing the process.
Thank you. It's so important that we don't just okay, so when I first started therapy, I had this idea that you go in with a problem and you're fixed and everything's solved, I guess. By the end of that hour, not how it works. And I would see
So
people show up online and talk about how they healed their anxiety. And I'm like, how? And whether they completely healed it or they've learned to manage it, different for every person and what the cause was and what that diagnosis or symptomology looks like for you. But I wasn't seeing people talk about what they actually did, what steps they were taking in a day to day. Sometimes I would see these like, I acknowledged I had anxiety and then I overcame it. And I'm like, okay, there were a million steps in between getting to A and B. And that was one thing for me that was really, really discouraging, right? Because you're like, okay, other people are doing it. I've admitted I have these symptoms, I have these thoughts. I'm not better. What's wrong with me? And for me, anxiety is something that I'm going to deal with probably every day for the rest of my life. And I've learned to manage it in a way that helps me still get to show up and be me and have fun and be happy while also feeling anxious 95% of the time. And I think that's the thing is showing those,
yeah,
even if it's something small, like today I woke up and I had this thought and I actually decided to go back to bed. And then when I wake up, try again. Something that's this is the step I'm taking. And it might be this huge step of I created this book to go and step by step how I'm redoing it, or I took a nap, or I went for a walk. The small things that we can do in that moment actually help us instead of just expecting it to go away when we snap our fingers.
it rarely does. I've never seen that work. And my first experience with therapy after my brother died, I got disappointed. One, I couldn't fully afford it, which is a whole nother conversation. But I remember feeling like I wasn't getting fixed immediately. And I was still just dealing with a loss immediate, like the loss just happened. So the idea of having therapy, 3, 4 sessions of therapy, and I'm over my brother's death, that's not going to happen. Here I am many years later and still missing him and realizing like that grief process, it has phases. There's nights where I'll dream about my brother and like a moment from childhood, and I have to deal with that again because now the loss takes on a new meaning, a moment where I remembered something that it's weird. I've had a moment where I remember fighting my brother when we were young, and then if that thought comes up in a dream, I'm now dealing with that when I wake up, and now I'm having guilt on me about why he's not here, which is a whole nother another thing to carry. And that I didn't cause my brother to die, but there's different steps in healing, and you're never fully healed. That's what I've come to realize. I've made a poem and also a stance in life that healing is a process. It's not a destination. It's a journey because you're always going to experience things. We experience birth in our lives, which causes change. We experience death in our lives, which causes change, promotion, demotion, all types of things, environmental changes, government changes, all kinds of things around us are constantly changing while we're going through personal healing experiences. So then healing takes on a new definition or a new route to get there. The GPS signal gets changed. And I'm just grateful for the lessons of the process that I've got over the years. Some of it was help to get there, but some of it I had to learn on my own. And I'm grateful now that I'm able to teach other people what I learned on my own so that they don't have to go through the same process the same way, even if they have to go through the same process. They don't have to go through it thinking that they're failures if they had a bad day. Even if you had 10 days of being okay, and you giving yourself a cheat day, you still are 9 steps ahead of where you were before. And it's easy to say like I had one bad day and I'm a failure. I'm it wasn't worth changing or it wasn't worth trying, but you're way, way further ahead than you were before. Even in just understanding, you're further ahead.
Yeah,
We are further ahead.
we are, and that goes back to what you said about giving ourselves grace. It's gonna look different every day, and again, it's all a process. Recovery is a grief, your mental health, it's all a long process that's not linear, and it's gonna look different every day, and for a long time for a long time, still do it sometimes, I have those days where I'm super productive and I'm like, "Yes, this is what life's supposed to look like." And then I have one of those days where weeks, where I maybe was out of bed for 4 hours and I just didn't have it in me to keep going. And I would, like, hate myself for it. I'm like, I know I've come so far, I was doing so good, what's wrong with me today? And that's all those intrusive thoughts, and getting to a point where I'm starting to recognize, trying to recognize that if I get out of bed for those 4 hours, that's a major accomplishment. If I just looked at my phone and sent a message out on social media saying, "This is what I'm going through," that's a major accomplishment. If I just send a check-in text with my friend and say like, "Hey, I'm really struggling today. Can you talk?" That's a major accomplishment. If I choose to rest and give myself, my body, my brain the rest that it needs, that's an accomplishment. Every single thing I'm doing is because I learned something along the way. And that's what matters, is that I'm still going. It's not about how fast I'm going or if my path has, I don't know what the word is for this. You're not watching the video. Doesn't make sense. My path has maybe swerved like a fish. My path maybe has swerved, and whatever path I'm on in that moment, as long as I'm still trying, that's all that matters. Even if it feels like I'm taking a few steps back, I'm still trying, and that's all you can ask for.
You're still here.
Yeah.
You're still breathing. Isn't like the biggest accomplishment really that we're breathing? Because you can't pay for it. You can't work for it. You can't do anything for it. And if you're breathing, whatever you did in that moment, if it was stressing, if it was being quote unquote productive, whatever you did in that moment, if you were breathing, you accomplished something. Staying alive. Staying alive. Staying alive. You're surviving. You are surviving. We are surviving and trying to figure it out. It's interesting. You talked about like the 4 hours in bed. Some of those things can happen in the same day, not just one day. For me, there's moments where before noon didn't look like afternoon. A very productive morning, or quote unquote productive morning, and then the afternoon, somebody swerved in traffic a funny way, it threw me off, or a text. I watched the wrong movie. I ate a burger I shouldn't have had, or whatever. But a day has components or compartments of how it winds up playing out. So I'm grateful for this space. This is therapeutic, just talking about things and appreciating vulnerability. I see it in you. I really, 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 I appreciate what you bring to the table. There's moments where you talked about like getting up and maybe just only shooting out a text or putting up something on social media. You have no clue how powerful those moments can be. There's moments in the middle of the night. I remember someone had something up and just like, hold on. And it's like, you don't know, like when I saw that at 3 in the morning that I was struggling with wanting to live. But just seeing that little thing that was put out there, you don't know who's going to come along and pick up the breadcrumbs that are left alone and how full they're going to get off of those crumbs. So I know that you're interviewing me, but I just want to let you know, like, I'm so proud of you and I appreciate the content and the life that you live because it's really valuable and it's really touching other people. It's touching people in other states. I've seen so many people are following you and also consuming your content. And I just want to make sure that you know how appreciative I am of you and how special the work that you're doing is. It's really special.
Thank you, and I feel the same way about the work you're doing. It's so, so important that we all play a role in making an impact, and it's so important that we show up with vulnerability, compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, and just do what we can with the tools that we have. One of my favorite encouragement cards that I've come across. My favorite thing, by the way, is when I get like a whole stack of cards that I get to go through and read through them, make sure they're all appropriate, stamp them. I get to see some really good messages that help me. There's one that it's my favorite to recollection that I can remember. And it was, "You've survived 100% of your bad days." And for me,
Mm,
that was huge because I always think like, "This is it. This is the worst day of my life. It's never gonna get better." And I felt that so many times, and then it got better.
mm,
Or I just survived that day, the days I didn't think I would. And it really helped put a lot in perspective for me that I've gotten through the last time I felt this way, so I can get through this moment too. I think that's the thing, right? Making sure that not only are we helping ourselves get through, but we're letting people know that they're not alone in it and they can get through it too. And that's what's so valuable about the work that we're both getting to do.
I want to ask you and also let you know like what I think my experience has done. Have you thought your experience has made you more compassionate? Or have you found that it's made you more compassionate?
I would say yes and no. So in some ways, it's made me a lot more
Okay.
compassionate to understand that people, you don't know what someone's going through, and if someone kind of mean to you and you just you didn't deserve it, feeling that compassion of they might be going through
Hmm.
something. But it's also, I think,
Good.
made me lose, I don't want to say lose compassion, but gain more respect for myself and setting boundaries and knowing that if I if you're treating me a certain way and I know it's impacting me and I've said it with kindness that this is impacting me multiple times and you're not listening, you're not caring, you're not trying, it's made me a lot less, I
Hmm.
need to make everyone happy all the time and change that mindset to I need
Yeah.
to protect my mental health. So in some ways, more compassionate toward others, and I guess in some ways, way more compassionate toward myself. I don't know if that made sense, but what about you?
It does because what you, yeah, and it's the same thought that you just said is what I've had. It's made me compassionate towards strangers in a way that it's really just touched me in a different way where it's made me respect people that I may have overlooked before or not understood their story. And being involved with like DEI spaces, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think I said it wrong. Yeah, diversity, equity, inclusion spaces. Being in roles where I had to learn other people's stories and experiences. That's made me more compassionate to strangers and to what other people's lives look and feel like. But it's also my experiences have also taught me to have compassion on myself and have respect for myself to not tolerate certain things that I don't deserve from certain people. So there's compassion to give people grace and forgiveness, but it's also enough compassion and respect for myself to tell people I don't have to hear this, particularly with relationships, broken relationships. I deserve better than this. I don't have to stay on this phone. I don't have to be in this place. I don't have to be around these people who make me feel like I'm insignificant or that I'm worthless. So it's taught me to have compassion and respect with those boundaries and to own my time in a better way. So I do agree with you on that. And I think my uncle helped me with my uncle when I had this break when in 2018 where I felt like taking my life. My uncle, instead of just encouraging me to like seek therapy or to do anything, the first thing he told me to do was to go get a schedule, like a book to write my schedule in. And everything is on my phone. So I was thinking I don't need a schedule, but he wanted me to get used to writing out what I needed to do in my day. Write out, I'm going to do 20 push-ups at 8 a.m. I'm going to go for a walk at 9 a.m. I'm going to do this. And when he taught me, I don't know if he intentionally did it, but he taught me to love myself and appreciate and schedule my time to take care of myself. And that helped me in addition to therapy, in addition to changing environments, a lot of things. But that taught me to love myself by owning my time. And then it also physically made me better. Doing those push-ups helped schedule. It just taught me to put myself on the schedule in a world where I have been used to giving so much compassion to people who don't necessarily deserve it. And then I'm putting myself on the chopping block for whatever may come from that. I'm not prioritizing keeping myself alive at the sake of trying to help other people. And it's a balance there because I want to always help other people, but I need to make sure that I don't forget that I have to stay alive in order to help other people. And if I put myself in what I've labeled slippery places, I'm going to slip and I'm going to fall. And then it's the people who are in those people who are in situations that need to avoid slippery places won't know it because I didn't survive the slippery place. So that compassion, along with respect and boundaries, I fully understand where you come from with that.
It's so
I think
important.
that's what you meant. I hope I didn't take it somewhere else.
No, you're absolutely correct, and that's the thing, it's so important with our time, how we choose to spend our time and recognizing that I mean, we're in a line of work where our goal is to help others, right? So it's so easy to make our time all about others, and that's something I do is I write down what I'm gonna do that day, and I make sure I include time for me, so and it will literally be X amount of time, maybe it's like 120 minutes of working for something else I need to get done, then 30 minutes of doing something specifically for me. Or it's I'll do this task and then I'll go to hot yoga and then I'll do this task and then I'll go for a walk or I'll do some deep breathing. So it's finding ways to literally add time that focuses on me and my mental health in my schedule so that I'm not so overrun focused on other people I can still exist as myself. And also because as much as I love the work that we get to do, it can take a toll on your mental health when you're hearing stories over and over and over again that are heartbreaking. And you can relate to
Yeah.
it so deeply because you've gone through that too. So to have self care measures in place to take care of you during that, so you get to show up for people in that way because it's so amazing. And I love getting to do that but also it doesn't impact me in a negative way for the next day, week, month, year. It's so important to find that balance. It's something I struggled with for a while, but I'm learning.
That's part of your process. I think when you mentioned earlier about like showing up to places and like the stats are important or what people share for like places where you get to speak at. I think that one of the things I'm really excited about, I'm sorry for not having clarity in this thought, but one of the things I'm excited about is systemically addressing the ways that people take care of their mental health. And the programming that we're creating or we're introducing is going to do that. So that way the conversation is not just about mental health, but it's actually teaching people a way to do things. Like if it can be teaching somebody, like if you tell someone exercise is important versus, hey, let's have this bike ride, you're showing them, but also providing an opportunity for them so that they can learn, hey, exercise is important. When you, I think one of the things I like that you do is you show these meals or your meal preps and like healthy meal options, seeing it versus a post saying you should eat better, those are two different things. If I just see the words, a healthy diet is important versus this was a simple meal that I made. It consists of this veggie wrap, blah, blah, blah. And it took 5 minutes to make. That's something that's tangible. It's something that I can relate to and I can say this is possible as opposed to just seeing information. And one of the things I'm excited about with our organization is we want to introduce young people to tools to take care of their mental health. And instead of just having gatherings where we talk about the subject of mental health, we're going to now use golf and also use chess to introduce them to sports and activities that they typically don't have in the urban community, but then use those as spaces to teach them how the mind is important. It takes a strong mind, or it takes using your mind in order to succeed in chess. It takes using your mind and your body cooperating together in order to be successful in golf. It also takes a certain level of etiquette, of respect to other people in the games of chess and in golf. And they're also quiet games. So it's introducing people to a space where there's a lot more silence as opposed to basketball with the bouncing ball or just the yelling at each other, the brutality of the sports, but using these activities that are peaceful in a way, but also challenging the mind. Hopefully that young people will have a stronger sense of self and a stronger mind so that when their mind feels challenged, they can think ahead as you have to think in chess and they can process a moment differently. In addition to using, we're going to introduce the children or the young people to your journal. I'm excited to put that journal in their hands so that they can have your resource and your tool in order to get them through that, teaching them the importance of journaling, but also using activities so that systemically we're teaching people behaviors that can ultimately change the way they think and ultimately change the decisions that they make that can be fatal or that can be dangerous or that can hurt other people. Because it's not just about suicide. Someone can make a decision to become an alcoholic, and then that's a slow death. Somebody can make a decision to go to the casino and lose their money, and that's a slow death. So what we're trying to do is help people think through things so that they make better decisions. And I'm encouraged and excited about the Clubhouse and Checkmate programs being the next program that we introduce, actually starting this summer.
That is amazing. I love the
The
idea.
journals being a part of it.
I love the idea of using chess to help people think in a different way. I remember in my high school, it was a writing class. I don't remember exactly which one. Maybe it was like comp one or two, when my teacher made us play chess every
Okay.
Friday. And I never understood why he would force us to do this because sometimes it would be fun and we'd be like laughing and he would be like, no, I need you to focus and really play it. I was like, why is he making us do this? But then at the end, he was like, so many times you thought you were stuck and you had to think critically to find another way out. And that's what everything in life is about. In your education, there's going to be so many times where you feel stuck in, what do I write about? Or what path do I take? Do I go to college? And finding these different ways to make those decisions is really important. That was one of the very few times I had teachers like take something so tangible outside of the classroom and relate it to life. And I will remember that for the rest of my life. It's so important that we equip kids with these tools that they need to get through life instead of focusing so much on, I don't know, on calculus. I always use calculus as an example because I'm really bitter that I spent so much time in calculus to never use any of those equations. But, right? Like, why? I wish I got more about life. Like, what if someone taught me how to write a check? I don't know. Or do my taxes. But it's fine. But it's so important that we
Yeah.
equip kids with the tools that they need for life. And that's what I love about what you're doing. As we are wrapping up, can you give us a quick overview of MBK Cares and how people can get involved, learn more, and join your mission?
Absolutely. So MBKCares stands for My Brother's Keeper Cares. We are an official 501c3 nonprofit organization located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We do a lot of work to help people deal with their mental health and to prevent suicide. We do that by collaborating with businesses, organizations, different community partners to just bring programming using arts, using therapy, using speeches, and now even these activities of chess and golf. We bring programs to the community in a way that they address specific needs. So the way to follow us would be on our website, mbkcares.com. We also have social media handles under the same name, MBK Cares. Everything is under MBK Cares. You can also be reached via email, either through the website or at mbkcares@gmail.com. We're looking to bring this program to other cities. So the model that's being created here, what's been created here in Philadelphia, is a national model that we're hoping to eventually put other chapters in other cities when we get to that point, or just leave this for work to be done for the next generation. But I'm excited to be able to continue using poetry, which is a passion of mine, using chess, using golf, using creative ways to be able to reach young people and to speak to a creative fan base or a group of creatives, as they say in Philadelphia. People like to communicate in ways that they can understand. And we found poetry to be very, very easy for people to understand. and for people to be able to express their truths even when they're not ready for therapy. People have gotten on microphones and said things that they may not say to anybody in one-on-one conversation. So we create safe spaces, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to share us with your audience. And I hope that your audience can tap into what we're doing. There's opportunities to volunteer or to donate to our organization through the website. And we're looking forward to having you at the next MBKCares event, Discovering Mental Wealth, where you're going to be doing a presentation for us too.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.